Welcome back to the Winner Circle, everybody. I'm here with Amol from Throttle AI. This is going to be a great conversation about the future of advertising and how AI is playing a role in that. So, Amol, welcome to the Winner Circle, and congratulations on the award.
Thanks, Russ. Thanks for having me, and glad to be here.
So, why don't you just give us? I've been following you for a long time. I've been interested in this space for a long time. I've been in the digital marketing and media space for a long time, and following you guys because you've won so many awards. Give us just the brief elevator pitch on Full Throttle and yourself.
For sure. Ultimately, we are aiming to be the easy button for the open internet. And we really specifically focus on mid market brands, agencies. So we're not looking for the huge agencies, the big, billion-dollar brands. We're really in that mid market space, which is often underserved. There hasn't been enough tools and technology, especially in the ad tech space, that has been made for SMB and for mid market. So ultimately, our main mission is to make ad tech easy. And we do that by simplifying the very complex world of ad tech for brands, agencies. We provide a AI enabled, intuitive platform and unifies three key things that should be part of every advertising plan. One is audience identification down to household, omni-channel activation, which means CTV, display, online video, audio, podcasting, and even direct mail is all part of our omni-channel activation tool. And then we neurotically enable brands and agencies to measure every dollar of media sent through the platform against those audiences across all those tactics to measure those dollars against real outcomes. So I sold this many windows, this many cars, this many solar installations. Here's the gross profit on those. So it's a pretty robust outcome measurement against real media activations against high quality audiences.
Well, and that's what it's about, right? It's about results. And if you've been in marketing long enough, your CEO has come to you and said, like, we spent $1 million on that campaign, $50,000, whatever it is. What are the results? And as a marketer, you're like, well, we sent some emails, and we got 14 clicks to the website, and sales said they got one sale, right? And for years we've been doing attribution that way, and then Google came along and gave us some new tools, and other ad tech platforms came along. Attribution's really the trick in all of this, isn't it? Of like, where did that click come from, and how did they get to your site?
I think actually it is, and to really further define, I think the industry has gone actually in the incorrect direction over the last couple of years, and it's natural why it happened, but everything became very click based attribution, right? So I went to Google, I searched for something, I clicked a paid search ad. At some point, maybe I converted, and so paid search gets credit for as much paid search as you're spending, right? And so often it misses the boat. Or same with email. Like we sent this many emails, or even a direct mail piece. We sent these many direct mail pieces. It's a list based activation. So here's how many people out of the list purchased from me, right? And so that's thinking about like marketing 101 before digital, back in the day, like list based activation. You were able to tell a return. It's been tougher in the digital space. So when you think about CTV, display, video, what were the behaviors and exposures that led me to go search on Google, right? And because you couldn't measure that the way that you could measure direct mail or a list based activation, or you couldn't measure that in the way that you knew that someone clicked on a Facebook ad or clicked on a Google ad and then filled out a form, on a
Hmm.
website. So, what did the world start doing over the last whatever, let's call it 5, 10 years? We're going to put everything into Meta slash Facebook and Google because I can measure it. And so when my CEO yells at me that I don't know if I'm seeing results, well, at least I can point to Google and Meta showing some clicks and maybe showing some form conversions. So what ends up happening is that everyone starts spending probably too much money on both of those platforms. And it becomes a race to the bottom. So it's like, how can I get a cheaper cost per click? And it becomes when that is your marketing strategy, which I'm oversimplifying maybe, but it becomes the marketing strategy. I'm just going for a cheaper cost per click across Google and Meta. And yeah, we do some other stuff, we sprinkle it, but it doesn't really, we're not really part of it. Now, with tools like Full Throttle AI, you can see the entire marketing journey. getting exposed to CTV and display and a direct mail piece, then clicking on Facebook ads and Google ads, then coming into a store and buying something offline, right? And so now for the first time, you can start to, I would say no one still has the magic wand, right? But at least you can start to better understand the full journey, what's making an impact, and maybe more importantly, what's not making an impact. What do you need to actually do less of?
So is that what's broken in kind of that mid market today? Is just the visibility of it all, or what do you, when you're talking to a new customer, what's the, the number one problem that they're trying to solve?
I think everyone wants more outcomes, and given the economy and given everything happening in the world, every and AI mania, right? I think every team in the world, whether you're an agency or you're an advertiser slash brand, or if you're a media company, you're looking to say, how can I do more with less? Because we are in the world of AI. And what ends up happening is that if my marketing strategy is 70, 80% um, Meta, Facebook, Google, right? Then it's like, well, I feel like when I spend more money there, I'm not getting more outcomes, which makes sense because putting it all in one place and you're just driving the price up for the Facebook click because everyone's doing the same thing, right? It's a bid ultimately. So I think what ends up happening is when I talk to agencies and brands, they're like, listen, I just don't. I need a better thing about media mix, but I need to have a defensible media mix. I've got to focus on the right audiences. I got to see how I'm making an impact. I got to measure in outcomes, and so we enable brands and agencies and media companies that kind of act like agencies often in serving their advertisers to finally bring the full picture together and say, hey, you know, if I reduce my investment in paid search and paid social, and I put it into something that is really targeted at an audience level, but some of these, it's called non-clickable media, I can actually see that my paid search and paid social results are going up by spending less money on them, which is like a mind blowing kind of
Totally
concept.
counterintuitive.
Right, it's totally counterintuitive, but if you think about the opposite, it's just everyone throw money at the same bid and you're just driving up the price. So of course your cost per acquisition is going up. Of course you're not getting incrementality when you spend more money. So these are, there's many things that come up in the market, but this is a main one. Agencies do that for their advertisers who work with us directly and they have an internal marketing team. They're facing the same challenges. Agencies, it's even tougher because they had to think about how am I also monetizing my services on top, or how am I providing really unique proprietary tech on top of my tech stack so I can close new business faster, I can get more clients, right? Because how can I, if I double my revenue, can I keep my headcount the same? These are the things that agencies are thinking about when it comes to AI and next generation tools as well.
Some of the problems I've run into, and I know others have in my career, there was too. You run into, especially with Google, Google ads. Um, you see results, and you're like, okay, I put 25 in and I got 50 out. Great, I'll do that all day long. But then the question is, should I double that or triple that? And you don't know the answer, what that answer is going to be before you make that investment. And I think a lot of teams are worried about cannibalization on Google. Is that you're buying ads to be up top when in effect your content that would have been on top there is now second or third. Um, and then Google keeps putting AI results on top of search now, so you wonder where that is. We know ads are coming there too, and then they keep threatening to get rid of the cookie, and so we're really kind of living on that teeter right now, and it seems like that cookie is the biggest limitation that we have.
To a certain degree, I think funny enough, we've been doing this since 2018 actually. So we've been doing it for now a long time. And when we, founded the company and we found some unique developers are working with in the first kind of few months, we made a decision, a little bit of foresight, I would say a little bit of luck as well, to say, hey, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5, 10 years, but let's build this without using cookies, right? So can we have something that is it can it's not cookie reliant, right? So it can fully persist even if cookies one day disappear. And we built it really ahead of time. And so when the I think the seesaw, will they do it, will they don't do it, happened those couple of years. We were certainly well positioned for growth, and certainly drove one of the factors of growth for us last couple of years. Um, but I think ultimately what happened still was signal loss, right? And so cookie is just another signal that, without, when it's with its loss, you it's harder to find the right audiences, activate them, and then measure if that had any actual material effect on the business. And you know, it wasn't just cookies, but like for those that, I think Android has it and iPhone has it, like the Ask app not to track stuff that they came out, and a lot of privacy around that. So now like you had less identifiers being fed in the ecosystem. Luckily, our platform is not subject to any of those signal changes in terms of how we identify households, how we find the right audiences. In a way, everyone is surely subject to some kind of signal loss. But we had a little bit of foresight, a little bit of luck, and chose to build a technology that way. It's part of our core set of patents that we did. So we also protected that technology as well early on, in the early 2020s. So we received patents, and we've been getting a new patent probably every other year as we build out our collection of how we really do everything in one flow.
And so you guys aren't focusing on the cookies. I think you're focused on a household level kind of identity. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And for many businesses, certainly not every single one in the world, but for many businesses where it's not, hey, I'm going to go to QSR, McDonald's, order a Whopper. I have an item that is going to take me probably more than a day to think about purchasing, or service rather than thinking about purchasing. And there could be multiple people involved in that decision. It's a bigger ticket item, meaning it's not like $20, right? It's something that I might could have a little bit of consideration in the right product. And um, you know, where you have those kinds of things, and then when you convert or you purchase a product or a service, often it can be measured at the household level, and that's actually the most accurate way to measure it. So I'll give you an example with buying cars. You could do the same thing for buying a sofa or anything, right? But with buying a car, you could put it, Russ, in your name. You put it in a spouse's name. You're buying it for a teenager. You put in the teenager's name. You could be using your email, a joint email. Relationships have a joint email. So when you think about, well, how are you going to do what's the single piece of identifier that's probably consistent? And funny enough, because there's a lender typically involved in some shape or form, or a shipping address, some shape or form, right? The most accurate piece of information is actually the household. And so um, most of the ad tech industry has been built on the backs of something called a hashed email, which is cool and works for certainly many use cases. But for so much of the mid market, and in aggregate is a massive part of the economy. Household and measurement that way is actually a much more meaningful way to get material outcomes from your investment.
So how are you turning that first party data into something that's actionable across all of those channels? That seems to be the magic
Yeah.
sauce.
Yes, I mean, and some of it is certainly, we have our patent numbers that are published, publicly, and there's a certainly, I will call a scientific rabbit hole to go down to really explain, how it works. But essentially, we have a proprietary tag that doesn't use cookies. That's one key driver. We have integrations with, DMSs, which is kind of like the CRM in the automotive space of transactional data. We are have integrations with home service CRMs, right? So like we have a lot of ways that you can pull in your first party data. We have people that, just like using I don't know, Russ, if you use like a Facebook custom audience, you can go
Mhm.
in, map your columns. We have all of that technology as well. And so you're able to upload attribution data, et cetera. So there's a couple different ways that we allow advertisers to bring some first party data to to the game. And then also we are the main source, because everyone can do that, is our proprietary tag that's taking real in-market signals without using cookies and saying, I'm going to convert those into households and first-party data that you can touch and see and feel. And then it first starts feeling real. And it's like, well, I have all these households that are interested. I can see them jumping from an iPhone to a Mac in the house, or maybe like send it to a spouse in the living room. I don't know, just make up a situation, right? Um, and it becomes much more actionable. So for a marketer, certainly there creates a set of urgency of like, okay, well, how do I send a direct mail piece, CTV? I want to immerse this household so that when they look to buy, you know, install a new garage next month or this month, whatever. I want to be fully immersed. Every member of that household has to be thinking about our brand, right? And our promotion, whatever it may be. So it creates urgency there. And then even for marketing teams that need to curry and defend investment from their C suite, either their CMO or from the CEO or from the CFO, they can also show, hey, here's I know they're all numbers in a PDF or a dashboard, but these are real people that are shopping. They are in market. They're going to buy from us or our competitors. So, do we want them to buy from our competitors? Do we want them, or do we want to convert them? Right. And so it creates, I think, a good canvas for our marketers that are either on the advertiser side or on the agency side, right? To be able to create some urgency and conviction on why an investment is worth it. And then we allow them to prove it. So that's the ultimate holy grail as well.
Well, yeah, I remember I was at a big internet service provider at one point in my career, and I remember talking to the guy responsible for kind of residential marketing of internet services, and I said to him, I said, like, man, I got a lot of mail from you. Like, it seems like every 2 or 3 days, I'm pulling something out of my mailbox that's either direct mail piece from you, or it's a coupon in one of the coupon books, or something. And I'm seeing ads. And I said, why is that? And he said, because we know that this decision is going to be made, and we have to basically lay the foundation so that when you make a decision, we're there. And that's got to be about the most inefficient spend you could ever have. And it sounds like you guys are tackling that dead on. And if there's no signal, don't spend the money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's your, I would say most profitable audiences, meaning I think they're low hanging fruit. They're in market. They're evidencing behaviors. They're selecting products and services that based on what your website is showing them, right? And you can segment and drill down all of those ways and really target, the people that want this product line, right? They want the, um, you know, KitchenAid set of appliances and these types of appliances. You can target them very specifically. If you go on an ad platform, maybe like a Google or something, you're not gonna be able to target that level of granularity, and then
No,
measure, did they buy the KitchenAid? So some really cool ways you can when it's first party data that you can touch and see and feel. It also gives you some pretty incredible segmentation opportunities. Get really smart about how you're targeting, and that becomes fun. I mean, we kind of gamify it too, right? So then it becomes people. I hate to say marketers hate marketing, but I do think that that is a thing that has happened just because of how disconnected everything is and how much of a guessing game and how much of a defense it's become. So when we kind of make it much more gamified and much more hands-on, right? And we have a full self-service platform too, that agencies and brands use. It becomes something that allows them to kind of get back into what made them love marketing in the first place.
it is fun. It is gamified though. You're always on the hunt, right? We used to be on the hunt for traffic, and now and then clicks, and now we're really on intent. Um, so you guys have positioned yourself in this agentic AI category. I think agentic AI is going to be the buzzword for this year. That and chief AI officer
Right.
as a title. What does that actually mean inside your platform?
For a couple different ways. So we use large language models to better look at, what URLs people are looking at, and then translating that into, intent. So when you think about website visits and URLs, and there's so many letters and characters and terms that certainly you can use non AI to determine with a lot of rules. Basically, if the string contains this word, then this it means this. But it's a huge catalog of business rules, right? With AI, you're kind of making a leap on propensity. What product and service are they interested in? How likely are they to buy? How many times have they seen? And so the calculus on coming to a conclusion on some of these things. One, we use AI there. That's a huge way. Then saying, hey, we have a custom bidder service, so we know if Russ as a household ID is being activated. How do we go find all the right devices that we need to link in? So there's some great. I call it our signal graph, audience signal graph. I mean, everyone says identity graph. I think that term's been termed to death. People use it in different ways, but I think if you have a bidder, I think about the bidder like a huge stream, that is flowing. And when you put your you dip your toe in the stream, you get to listen into all kinds of real time. It's like the stock ticker. You get to see all kinds of activations and signals. And so it's a really, again, anytime you have huge amounts of data, volume, language, you're using all of that. And same for outcomes as we're trying to make the leap to say, okay, well, here was the kind of way that we're linking and determining that there was a material effect on outcomes, and how are we making those things together. So those are the main ways. It's funny because most platforms, and you say, well, what's your AI? And they serve up a little chatbot that's in the platform, or whether it's a little widget or it's like in the screen. It's like you can type, and we have some of that too. Don't get me wrong. You can say, build
Great
me
for
a
support.
yeah, it is. Like, build me a plan to sell more electric vehicles. And we'll go use all of your first party data and segment and bring it in. They'll price it out for you. The ad tech easy button, right? So of course AI does it that way. I just feel like everyone's kind of got a version of type in I want to do this and it gives you a plan. And I think that's table stakes now when it comes to agentic. I think the other pieces where you are better connecting dots behind the scenes. And even though it's not an AI I'm talking to necessarily, but you're using what are large language models to better deduce how systems and data points can be connected to make an impact. That's where I think the real ingenuity leaps of AI are. But again, we have the thing where you type it into and it gives you the plan, and you kind of able to move a lot faster when you think about, I have an idea to here's a plan, and now I can press the button and I'm live from thought to plan to active, and I can be doing that in 20 minutes.
How much of the kind of campaign planning and execution can be just automated without even, without even going into that? I imagine you have goals and rules, but are your customers kind of setting that easy button and letting it go?
I think there's always, and we recommend a large degree of human intelligence coupled with artificial intelligence. I think those that are saying AI and set it and forget it, a I don't think it's the best strategy. B, I think there is downstream implications. So if you're set it and forget it, how long until you realize there's a true problem, right? To me, that's like how you create a bubble. Essentially, it's not regulated. There's no human intelligence that's saying, let me at least do a dentist check, right? I call it the dentist check. It's like you get your teeth clean. You have the hygienist does like 95% of the work. Teeth are clean. Dentist comes in just 5 minutes at the end, pokes around, looking good, everything good to go, sends you on your way. And I feel like, the human's role becomes more of the dentist. The hygienist is the AI's role that does all of the heavy lifting. So you can make better decisions at a higher volume in a faster way.
Now you mentioned earlier that you deal with kind of a lot of the automotive industry.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
walk us through kind of maybe, maybe a case study in something where that kind of, worked really well, and kind of what problem were you solving? How did it come to fruition?
For sure. So I think the biggest thing that most, I want to say all dealers really struggle with is similar to what we've talked about. So they need to sell more cars, they need to service more cars, and they need to do it at a pace that is better than their surrounding competitors. And it could be the same brand or it could be a competitive brand. So sell and service more cars and do it at a level that is better than your competitors. So you're actually gaining market share ultimately. That is what every dealer cares about. Doesn't matter what technology and what you're talking about. That's all that matters at the end of the day. And their challenges are often the same, which is 80% of my budget is paid search and paid social. And when I think about awareness, although that word I think has become what's the word? Um, I think it's become a word that's not preferred, right, in the industry because it feels like, well, that's not measurable. I can't measure awareness. How do I know it's actually having an impact? But the truth is, again, if you're a paid search and paid social, it's like, well, how do I get more people to come to the site? And they're only focused on, well, when someone searches, I want to show up to the top. Or if there's some signals in Facebook, I want to be in every other post in my Facebook newsfeed or Instagram newsfeed or TikTok newsfeed or whatever it is. Um, and so what we solved for dealers and dealer groups is, hey, I want to be able to launch and build campaigns in 2 minutes. And the top three use cases that we've been seeing a lot of that are, I think, very interesting, at least to me. One is I want to take all my customers who have less than 6 months left on lease from my DMS. I want to go find other lease conquest customers, meaning those that use Experian data, use a couple interesting things you can actually extend. So you think about like the first is the small circle. It's my using my own data, 6 months left. Next is a bigger circle around that. Well, what are people like them? We call them lookalikes, other people that are in conquest mode. And I want to specifically target a Hispanic market. So I'm going to target Univision inventory, right? And Televisia Univision, right? So can I target Univision inventory? And then can I do that? And then can I do that in 2 minutes without, can I have all that data at my fingertips, which is essentially what we allow them to do. Finalize the price and what I'm going to spend and the levels and all that good stuff. And then we have real time integrations. So every day you can see how many new leases you're able to sell from that campaign. So that's probably the biggest one. We do one for service where it's like we've seen them take some never service customers and some defected service customers, meaning they service a bunch of times, but they haven't in like 2+ years, for example, right? They take those and they send and they deliver a promotion via CTV, display, and a direct mail piece, all three, right? And they say, well, how many new ROs was I able to bring back from people that kind of left me, maybe for the local Pep Boys or whatever, right? So those two are probably, if I had to, the interest of time, there's two I wanted to focus on. Like those are some good ways, and then you can really slice and dice, go to town after.
Dealers do love after service. I know I've talked to a couple of dealers like that, and it's selling cars are great, but bringing those customers back is really the juice because you're getting them not only to on that service revenue, but also they're there the next time they want a new car.
Right. I
They're
mean,
seeing new cars. They're interacting with your team. It is. I mean, it is a great ecosystem if they can get it right, and when they get it right, it really is it's a great customer experience too.
yep, for sure. I mean, start getting into lifetime value and retention of customers staying in brand, or at least the OEM cares about them, a Nissan dealer getting customers to buy more Nissans. But an interesting marketplace. When if you're a dealer group that owns 5 different stores across 5 different brands, you mostly care that they are buying from you know, Russ Auto Group, right?
Right.
And they're staying kind of in the family that way. So there's some interesting things around lifetime value they can do. You can do cross promotion. That's another one use case that we've seen because we bring all the data together in one place. And then I mean, there's a lot of auto's been crazy last couple of years. Supply chain, tariffs, like a lot going on. There's a lot of consolidation in the industry. There's store purchases, and so lifetime value starts becoming a conversation of like, hey, what's the average lifetime value for customers of dealership X versus dealership Y? And so that, I mean, you could argue that was always a consideration, but I think the world forces that are at play today has probably accelerated what that value means in the market.
Yeah, and these aren't family owned mom and pop businesses anymore. Most of these dealers they own multiple brands, multiple
Yeah,
cities,
yeah,
multiple
we
regions.
work with a couple dealer groups. One that is probably about 325 stores. So
That's amazing.
yeah, pretty large.
That is not a small business. It's
No, no.
not. It is a
I
giant
guess they're
business.
publicly traded. Yeah, so I think
Right.
there's a lot that can be used when you have the right people that are able to champion it.
So you've been doing this since 2018. What surprised you most about how customers are using the platform today?
Um, I think That's a good question. What has surprised me um, the most? I think that everyone wants a self-service tool to feel like they um, can get behind the wheel and drive, right? But that's not what surprised me. We assume that's why we built a self-service tool. I think what surprised me is that I don't think they actually want to be using the self-service tool all that much. I think they just want to feel like they're not getting hoodwinked and it's kind of their ad account. And it's like they can go in there and they could make changes, but ain't nobody got time for that. So that's why they're going to use an agency, or they're going to have a marketing team that's going to do build it out and kind of expand it that way. So I think it was surprising and not surprising, if that makes sense. Like it was surprising. I
No,
was like,
I get it.
makes sense. There's still going to be a bit of either they're going to have it on their side team member, or they're going to use some of our services. It takes 2 minutes, but sometimes you want to be able to go faster. The other thing I compare it to, I don't, have you taken one of those Waymo cars?
I have not yet. No.
Very cool. I've taken them. For some people, it's very scary because you're in the back, there's no one up front, and you be on a highway. If you're going 60 miles per hour, it's like this is crazy, right? And I think of a lot of managed service advertising services the exact same way. It's like, I don't really know if I fully trust it. If there was a Waymo where, and I guess these are just like autopilot cars, right? If you just owned a car that had autopilot, but if you could just be like, cool, 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 but I could take the steering wheel and do what I want at any time, then that's essentially what we're seeing as a big use case. I didn't expect there to be as much of that as we do have today. It's really a hybrid of, hey, it's a self-service plan where we're using it, but I kind of want your help to help me do things once in a while. Yeah.
Well, you still require some expertise. I know when I was in telecom, we used to build, you know, telecom systems and communication systems, and you would always build this self-service portal so people can go in and make changes. And I think part of the problem is A, they're fearful that they're going to mess something up because you're dealing with routing and complex things. And I imagine in your world too, you turn one thing off and it has a pretty dramatic effect to results when you didn't think it might. And so having that is sometimes a little bit of a catch 22.
Yep. Makes sense.
When you're thinking about marketing and you guys have really kind of unified this identity and activation and measurement, y- how does this change kind of that landscape of advertising and marketing?
Yeah, I think probably everyone is searching for an easier tool. I think AI has, I mean, we've been doing that for before I think generative AI came to the level of maturity that it is today. But I think everyone's searching for that. So I do think human intelligence will be more important than ever, which is maybe a counter narrative to what you hear in the marketplace. And it's just there's a lot of noise in the marketplace. But I think that as the AI language becomes table stakes for every platform, it's how you use the platform still, right? Like how you control what you say to it, how you think about the strategy. I think the human intelligence becomes more important than ever. The analogy that I use, and it's imperfect, is Google. So people that use Google are not equal. Some people are great at finding things on Google and knowing how to use Google, and even with AI, right? And some people are not as good, and they'll put something in, right? And so I think it's kind of the same thing where, yes, the learning curve is much better and you're much smaller barrier to entry, if any barrier, right? You can start. But the people that are really good at using any kind of agentic platform, especially in the ad tech space, are going to be the ones that have the highest amount of strategy, highest amount of, I'll call it human intelligence, which encompasses a couple of different things, right? And so I don't know if that answers your question. I think identity market measure all going to happen. Audiences activation attribution. Everyone's going to say they have all these things. Everyone's going to have a version. Some will be exaggerating. Some will have it. That's the world that we live in. But I think the human intelligence combined with the artificial intelligence will kind of show the winners.
Well, and you've been dealing with this, or you've been building this for a long time now.
Yeah.
You've
Mhm.
been in this AI market. You've seen this evolution into generative AI. What mistakes are you seeing companies make now as they adopt AI into their marketing?
Yeah, I think um, probably not sense checking things. So I do think people are using AI to come up with drafts of plans, but are they mailing it in, right, or are they actually applying a layer on top when it comes to marketing teams that I think are either overusing AI in the sense that they're not sense checking it, or there's those that are like, listen, I think it's pretty easy to set up, and I think like if there's a will, there's a way, but there's still the ones that will be like, I'm not going to do that, And so for those that just can't adopt the new stuff, um, I think those are some mistakes that we're seeing. And then I think the third bucket of mistakes probably is for marketers that are thinking about data, audience, and even for other SaaS platforms. I'll put them all in one bucket. Um, they are looking for, they're looking for platforms that are AI enabled, not AI powered. And I think AI enabled means like take some, pollen dust AI features and kind of just like sprinkle them throughout the application.
Make it a
Call
little
it
bit
AI.
better.
Yeah, yeah, call it AI, a little widget here and there. Hey, we got AI. Check it off and go. Um, and I think AI powered requires a very different architecture. So AI powered means that you have a enclosure, you have an ecosystem, and in that you have guardrails and you have AI agents and you have MCP servers and different models that are kind of working within your space and able to interact with other agents externally. Right. And I think that's even if you're building that stack at a brand or as an advertiser and thinking about it, there's a lot of infrastructural misses that people are like, I'm just going to go plug in Claude Code or, I'm going to go plug in OpenAI or any of these, right? Uh, and I think later on they'll be like, oh, shoot, that spiraled out of control. I probably should have thought a little bit better about it. So, like most new technologies, they're even though this one is a huge, really an ingenuity leap. I think most new technologies are not revolutionary; they're evolutionary. Evolutionary implies like this drastic overnight. Everything's different. And while I think the market and the narrative and the noise kind of implies that, the truth is that they're evolutionary in 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 the real world, which means that there's an initial hype, and then everything kind of settles to reality, and people think about practical ways that this truly improves the business.
Well, Mol, thank you so much for joining us. We, have been following Full Throttle for quite a long time, and
Yeah.
it's been amazing watching you guys evolve with this market and kind of really lead this AI market into the advertising space. As far as I remember, I think y'all were one of the first companies, at least I had heard of, and in doing this type of of work. So I really congratulate you on all the success, and we're going to be tracking you from here on out.
Yeah, thanks, Russ. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed our discussion and really enjoyed all of our work and partnership with the Business Intelligence Group over the last couple of years.
Thanks again.
Thanks.